So I have received no answer from the men of the church, as I suspected. Of course, it may be that my words never reached them because I don't send videos to people. It just seems to be very arrogant. I'm embarrassed enough about making them, but I can't seem to shut up. But it did seem to me, the problem with those churches, you see, it's perfectly normal for men to have a different idea. You know, that's how we deal with our lives. We have different ideas. And because we're men, we roll up our sleeves and we get on with the job in hand and we agree to differ. That's what we do. We're practical. And then when it becomes proven, perhaps in the process of time, that one idea was more reliable than another, perhaps, then maybe somebody might change their idea. This is it. It's really none of our business, is it? You know, what another man thinks or believes. This is the problem. This is the wickedness in the church of making the writings of J.C. Ryle part of the service. Mere opinions. I mean, really. You know, are we to open then, you know, to all kinds of opinions? Is it to be included in the statement of faith that one has to pass through the filter of J.C. Ryle? Or somebody similar? Perceived authority, I don't know. This will never function. It will never work, you see. It never has worked. And really, it just needs to be done away with, this nonsense. People must believe as they please to believe and reason according to the Bible. And if they wish to share a particular interpretation, of course they should share it. Why not? But the idea that a man should impose his own understanding of the Bible on an entire congregation, I mean, really? There's a certain arrogance in that, is there not? The problem is they create a congregation then where no man really dares to voice any difference in doctrine, because it's a sad fact that the leader of the assembly, well, is obviously a man of great intellect and is quite confident in correcting a hymn writer that he has somehow struck a chord with him that didn't go down quite well. He feels the need, it seems, to set the universe to rights, or to set the world to rights. And he may have overestimated his own ability, I don't know. Maybe that's not his job at all. Who can say these things? But I do think that the brethren should be free to speak and to voice their understandings if they are relevant. But the reading in the church is from the King James Bible. I'm very sorry. You can't just pick up some novel, The Great Gatsby, and drive off with it into the sunset. I mean, please, please. Let there be decorum in the house of God. Was there not the discussion led by the preacher himself in his great wisdom of the wickedness, oh my Lord, in the Sanctus Sanctorum, in the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, and how dangerous it was to go in there unless everything was done according to the will of God, and how people would be caused to drop dead. And yet, obviously, I suppose they think, well, that's just the Old Testament, doesn't really matter now. But I think maybe it does. You know, I think maybe it does. I think we should be very careful about these things. certainly the sanctity of any praise to the Lord must be done from a place of holiness, for it to be heard, for it to have effect. We cannot defile the temple and then send up prayers. Let's clean the temple first. Give respect unto God, ourselves, and then respect perhaps will be forthcoming, and an ear will be opened, which is what we need. We need to be heard. And to be heard, we need to follow the biblical principles of love God and love thy neighbour. That second one is a difficult one. People struggle with it, we do struggle with it. But love thy neighbour, you see. That includes all sorts of people, involved in all sorts of activities. It includes people I once heard referred to as social justice warriors, as though they were some kind of a lesser mortal. People with alien ideologies. We're meant to love them as though they were ourself. It hardly bears thinking about. So I hope that the men of the church will, I don't know, it's not my job to tell people what they need to do or what they don't need to do, but honestly, just remove the preacher from that church already. He's done you no good whatsoever. He doesn't even speak any longer. Put somebody else, try to, or, the church needs to be revived. It's been driven into the ground. It hasn't had the blessing of God upon it. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Where are the fruits? There are none. As far as I know, I was the last person to be baptized in that church, and that's going back a few years now. I don't know whether they slipped another one in my period of absence. I doubt it, because nobody else has really appeared in the flock. There was, a gentleman who came a few times, but more or less, it's just dwindling, is it not? I suppose nobody expected me to stay all that long, because I've been earmarked as a troublemaker, which I probably am at this rate. Here I am making trouble, but I'm just fed up with it. Because you see, you hold the King James Bible. You have that privilege to represent the King James Bible in your neck of the woods. That is a great privilege. But the way that the church is being run is besmirching biblical principles. And the thing is it's a very grave matter. It's a very grave matter, and I hope you're beginning to see this. And you will mend your ways, and of course the mending must start from the top, and apparently the top is a certain gentleman, and so he must first of all mend his own ways, and if he cannot, he must stand down. Of course he must. Recognize the absolute devastation that his so-called leadership has caused. Men walking away left, right, and centre. I've seen it repeatedly. Is it all his fault? Well, no, of course not. But at the same time, has any effort been made to bring in new blood? They're not welcome, are they? You don't like them. You don't like them, really. Might get some foreigners in there. Is that the problem? Oh, I don't know what it is. It's something that really does pain me to see so little love emanating from that building. It's just dark, and so it should not be, because it's the house of God. It's ordained, and the King James Bible isn't nonetheless, despite everything. You hold it dear. But that's a responsibility also. It's not just something you've got, it's something you have to give to.